It's late at night in New York, and a man suddenly wakes up to find himself alone on the train, realizing that he missed his stop. When he leaves his seat, he slips into a pool of blood, leaving him soaked in it. He continues to slip as he stands up and hears some thumping noises coming from the other wagon, so he takes a look through the window. To his horror, he finds a person in the middle of butchering a victim. The next day, professional photographer Leon is walking through the city to take a few pictures for his portfolio. When he returns home, his girlfriend Maya teases him for paying more attention to his pictures than to her and reveals a surprise. She's arranged a meeting with famous gallery owner Susan, who has accepted to look at Leon's work. Sometime later, Leon and his boss Jurgis meet with Susan, and Leon shows her his work as he explains that his style captures the unique and gritty shots of the city. However, his photographs don't leave a big impression on Susan, who criticizes his shots, saying that he isn't taking enough risks and that his shots lack life. Later that night, Leon can't sleep because he keeps having nightmares about a train wagon covered in blood. He decides to go out to seek shots of the nightlife to improve his work, capturing a homeless guy and a loud group of 3 thugs. Then he follows these guys into the subway station, and when he takes the stairs, he finds the group harassing a woman and threatening her with a knife. Leon takes a few pictures of them before yelling at the guys to stop, and when one of the thugs begins approaching him, Leon takes pictures of him too, before pointing at the security camera to avoid a fight. Finding themselves red-handed, the group lets the woman and leaves. Then the woman kisses Leon to thank him for his help before she boards the train, where a well-dressed man holds the door for her as Leon takes one last picture. Afterward, the woman gets comfortable in her seat and puts on her earbuds so she doesn't hear the well-dressed man approaching her from behind to kill her with a mace. The next morning, Maya sees the new pictures and tells Leon this is exactly what Susan asked for, so he should try visiting her again. Then Leon goes to have breakfast at the restaurant Maya works at, and since he's a vegan, he asks the cook to grill some tofu for him. While waiting, Leon reads the newspaper and discovers that the woman he saved has been reported missing shortly after she boarded the train. Desperate to help, Leon goes to the police station and gives a copy of his pictures to Detective Hadley, who isn't convinced by his story and points out these pictures make Leon look like a stalker. Later in the afternoon, Leon meets with Susan, and this time she is absolutely amazed by his work. She even asks him to get 2 more powerful pictures to be part of her show next week. Feeling on top of the world, in the evening Leon has a drink with Maya and Jurgis to celebrate, but he doesn't stay long. He soon leaves to find those extra pictures Susan asked for. Meanwhile, 3 passengers are chatting in the subway when suddenly they notice that the train is taking a different route than usual, making them miss their stop. One of the passengers looks at the mirror and notices Mahogany approaching, who it's revealed to be the train butcher. Mahogany smashes a passenger's head with a mace, causing his eyeballs to fall out before his death. Then he attacks the next victim by using a hook and lifting him into the air. The woman tries to run away but slips in the puddle of blood on the floor as Mahogany starts making his way toward her. The other victim tries to stop him by grabbing his leg, but Mahogany just hits him with the mace and keeps going. In the end, the woman also gets beaten with the mace, resulting in her head flying off. Back to Leon. He's now waiting outside the station for anyone interesting to show up. At that moment, Mahogany comes up the stairs looking very intimidating, so Leon takes a photo of him and decides to start following him around. When Mahogany takes a turn, he realizes that he's being followed, so he stops just as Leon takes the turn as well. A scared Leon tries to keep going, but Mahogany grabs him, causing Leon to notice his star ring. Leon tries to explain that he just wants a picture, and Mahogany lets him go before crossing the street, giving Leon one last look before disappearing into a building. Later at home, Leon prints his photos and is shocked to notice Mahogany's ring on the hand that held the door for the woman he saved the other night. Now Leon thinks Mahogany may be the killer, so he decides to investigate further. The next morning, when Mahogany leaves his apartment, Leon starts to follow him around the city while taking pictures and eventually finds out that Mahogany works as a butcher. Leon takes a few pictures inside as well. Then he waits for Mahogany to get off work in the evening and follows him to the subway station. For a few hours, Mahogany just sits there, watching people come and go until the station is almost empty. All the while, Leon keeps on taking pictures. Once the train that Mahogany has been waiting for finally arrives, Mahogany goes inside, but before Leon can follow him, a police officer shows up and stops him to check his camera under some weird excuse of potentially being dangerous. Meanwhile, a huge man enters the train and tries to make fun of Mahogany before realizing that the train is taking a different road and he's missed his stop. Suddenly, Mahogany attacks him, knocking the man down with one hit, only to stop and drop the mace after coughing blood. At that moment, the man takes out a knife and gets up to try to stab Mahogany, but all his attacks are dodged. Then, a hand-to-hand fight ensues, and Mahogany is starting to lose control of the situation, which gets the attention of the driver. When the driver enters the wagon, he takes out a gun and shoots the passenger, revealing he's Mahogany's accomplice. In the meantime, Maya is closing up the restaurant and is surprised to find a box on the counter. It's a surprise from Leon, who shows up to confirm it's a pre-engagement ring. Then the couple celebrates by getting frisky against the counter, although Leon goes for another entrance without asking Maya first. Later that night, Leon has a nightmare about being on the late-night train killing a bunch of innocent people. Meanwhile, Mahogany is in front of the mirror looking at the scabs on his skin, and he uses a scalpel to remove them. Then he saves them inside a jar to add to his collection in the medicine cabinet. Sometime later at their apartment, Maya notices the man that shows in all of Leon's pictures and asks him about it. He explains that he feels the need to follow the butcher because he may be a dangerous criminal, but Maya reminds him of the photos that he has to submit to Susan for the show. Afterward, Leon does some research online and discovers there's been a series of killings connected to a butcher. Leon's obsession is still strong, and the next day, he comes to Mahogany's workplace, pretending to be a butcher to go unnoticed. He tries his best to keep his camera hidden and takes pictures of the place as he looks around. But unfortunately, Mahogany spots him, so Leon starts running away. He tries hiding in the room with the carcasses and sees Mahogany approaching with a blade in hand, so he hides by holding himself up on one of the bodies. Once he thinks Mahogany is gone, Leon comes back down, only to find Mahogany still there. Leon begins running as fast as he can, pushing people off to leave the building, and manages to hang on a truck to finally escape. Afterward, Leon goes to the restaurant to meet with Jurgis and finds his boss eating steak. For some reason, Leon begins feeling a great craving for meat, so he steals a piece from Jurgis's plate before asking for a steak for himself. The cook and Jurgis think Leon is acting very strange today. Later that day, Leon gathers newspaper articles related to the late-night train murders, covering the floor and walls to the point of unhealthy obsession. When Maya arrives, Leon immediately begins bombarding her with information about all the people that went missing on the train and how it connects to a scheme from the butcher. Annoyed but also worried, Maya begs Leon to stop shooting at night and to drop what sounds like a conspiracy theory. Then she tries to distract him by handing him his camera to take portraits of her as she takes off her clothes. However, Leon keeps having visions of the butcher in the train and apologizes for not being able to continue. Crying, Maya runs to the room and slams the door. Sometime later, Leon shows up at the restaurant and apologizes to Maya, promising to do better. But at that moment, Leon notices in the mirror that Mahogany is looking at him through the restaurant window, and he decides to follow him again. Leon makes his way to the subway station, boards the train, and takes a seat with his camera ready while watching Mahogany on another wagon. Moments later, all passengers are gone, except for Leon and Mahogany. Two more guys get on the train right before it takes the alternative route, and with his mace in hand, Mahogany checks. Nobody is watching before he starts killing the two men. Leon goes unnoticed by hiding, and when Mahogany is too distracted by his task, Leon comes to take a closer look, getting the shock of his life while watching the butcher kill his victims. He recovers quickly though, and he begins taking pictures as Mahogany extracts the men's teeth, nails, and eyes, then shaves their hair before hanging them upside down with meat hooks. Suddenly, Mahogany turns around and smirks at Leon, causing him to start running away. After running through all the wagons, Leon reaches the end and tries to ask the driver for help, but Mahogany catches up and smashes his head against the window, knocking him out. Afterward, Mahogany hangs him upside down without his shirt, and a mysterious creature shows up to cause Leon unbearable pain. Sometime later, Leon regains consciousness and finds himself inside the slaughterhouse. There are only a couple of people around and pay no attention to him, so Leon returns home, where Maya is destroying one of his pictures in frustration. As soon as she opens the door for him, Leon runs to lock himself up in the bathroom and takes a look at his chest in the mirror, discovering strange markings but not understanding the meaning. Then he leaves the bathroom, and Maya notices the scars too, so she tries to take him to a hospital. But Leon refuses before telling her everything he knows. Unfortunately, he doesn't have evidence because his camera was left on the train. Maya still wants to call the hospital, but as soon as she picks up the phone, Leon pushes her against the fridge to make her stop. After Leon goes to bed, Maya looks at the pictures and gets an idea. In the evening, Maya drags Jurgis with her to Mahogany's apartment to find Leon's camera. Jurgis opens the lock with a credit card, and Maya goes inside, where she looks inside a bunch of drawers and finds lots of creepy tools. When she goes to the bathroom, she suddenly gets startled, but it's just Jurgis, who wants to help with the search. Then Maya opens the medicine cabinet and grabs a jar, only to drop it when she realizes what's inside. Meanwhile, Leon finds the tools and a bunch of suits in the closet, where the camera is hanging as well. At that moment, Mahogany comes back and surprises Jurgis from behind. When Maya comes out of the bathroom, she finds Mahogany's bag and the timetables that record more than 100 years of murders on the train. After taking the timetables, she hears a noise and goes to check, only to notice Mahogany's shoulder in the closet. Terrified, she immediately runs away to the police station. She tries reporting the disappearance of Jurgis, but Hadley is skeptical and explains an investigation team has already been to that apartment, but they never found anything. In fact, Hadley points out that if Maya and Jurgis broke in to take things, they could be arrested, so Maya has no choice but to leave. In the meantime, Leon takes a bath and notices the markings on his chest are bleeding. However, he still dresses up and goes to the gallery for the show, where Susan introduces him to many clients that find his work amazing. Leon is too distracted to be social now and leaves the clients to look at the pictures instead. He finds a photograph with mahogany in it and intensely stares at it until Susan comes to check on him. But Leon only says he has a train to catch before leaving the show. First, he stops by the slaughterhouse, where he gathers a metal apron and as many weapons as he can carry before going to the station. Back to Maya, she goes to the restaurant to borrow the cook's gun, and when she comes out, she tries to call Leon, only to be interrupted by Hadley. The detective informs her that Jurgis is on the train, and Maya rushes out to rescue him. Moments later, Maya boards the train, always keeping her hand on the gun. After the last passenger gets off, Maya begins wandering through different wagons, and she's seen by Leon, who is waiting by the alternative route. Desperate to help her, Leon chases the train and jumps, managing to climb on it by using the hook. Maya keeps going and finds a wagon full of hanging bodies, including Jurgis, who is still alive. She cries and apologizes while trying to get him off the hook, but this causes Jurgis to scream in pain, which gets the attention of Mahogany, who is currently preparing another victim. While Leon tries to break the window with the hook, Mahogany comes after Maya, who shoots a few bullets and misses them all. Next, Maya tries running away, but Mahogany throws his mace and breaks her leg, causing her to fall. Mahogany then raises his mace to kill her, but at that moment, Leon finally makes it inside, and a fierce fight begins between the two men. As they fight with their butcher tools, the hanging bodies and the subway seats get destroyed in the process, and Maya tries to help by shooting only to miss the shot again. After exchanging a bunch of hits, Mahogany overpowers Leon and begins dragging him through the floor, but Leon finds a loose limb and uses it to hit Mahogany on the face, making him drop the mace. Mahogany doesn't give up and grabs Leon from behind to start throwing him around the wagon, even breaking a window with his body. Then he tries to stab Leon with a knife, but Leon stops it with his bare hands and tries to kick him off him. Mahogany retaliates by making Leon hit the roof, and when he lands, Leon stabs Mahogany's foot, this time managing to kick him off. As he falls back, Mahogany accidentally stabs Jurgis instead, and blood begins spreading all over the place. Leon uses the chance to grab the mace and continue the fight. After some struggle, he manages to hit Mahogany's hand and makes him lose his grip, causing him to fall off the train and almost falling himself in the process. Then Maya and Leon reunite, and as they hug, the train makes it to its final destination, and most of the lights go out. As if it was totally normal, the driver asks the couple to step away from the meat. Hearing some weird hissing sounds, Maya and Leon leave the train right before a bunch of reptilian creatures enter the wagon and start consuming the bodies of the murdered passengers. The couple walks through the abandoned station, noticing that it's covered with bones, skulls, and decomposing bodies. At that moment, Mahogany shows up again, and his eyes reveal he's changed. He immediately starts fighting Leon, who tries to defend himself using a skull and a few well-landed punches. Mahogany has a knife that Leon dodges just in time as he takes a good look at Mahogany's chest, noticing the same markings he has. Their fight continues, and Leon stabs Mahogany with a bone before he starts beating him up with no mercy. Then he puts the bone through Mahogany's neck, and when the butcher falls to his knees, Leon ends him with his own knife after Mahogany tells him, "Welcome." Then the train driver comes to Leon, saying Mahogany didn't have what it takes anymore, and that this job is a privilege. After confessing he envies Leon, the driver picks him up, rips out his tongue, and eats it. He then explains that the carnivorous creatures had lived underground long before the subway existed, and Mahogany's job was to feed them every night to keep them from attacking train riders during the day. Afterward, he approaches an unconscious Maya, who is lying on a pile of bones, and lets Leon watch as he hurts her to extract her heart. The driver hands the heart to Leon, asking him to serve as they all do. Sometime later, a new killer gets ready for the job, wearing the ring with the star symbol. He meets Hadley, who hands him the train timetables, revealing that cops are part of the conspiracy too. The new killer makes his way to the late-night train to look for new victims and reveals himself to be Leon.